Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, aka Friends to Fatherless Daughters on Instagram. And I believe that everyone can live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And so my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. So thank you for joining me. We are in episode number four. Episode number four. And this is a special episode because it is our first episode where we have a guest. And when I was thinking about who I wanted to be my first guest, I had one person in mind, and that is my friend who is here with me today. I will let her introduce herself. Jana, take it away. Introduce yourself to the listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited that you invited me because it's been a long time since we had the chance to do anything live together. And just to introduce myself quickly, my name is Jana Herde, a very German last name, so you guys don't have to learn how to pronounce it. It's just fine. And my account, where I post most of my content, is called Jana Herde Coaching. And I coach and help fathers heal and also find ways to reconnect with their estranged or alienated daughters and help them go through the whole process without losing everything, including their sanity. So that's why we know each other, because we're in the same boat.
Right. So we met on Instagram. I think you reached out to me first, and you came across my platform, and we did a live together on your platform. Then we also did a live together on my platform, and I
Hmm.
really love the dynamic because it's so different. Because I am a father who works with fatherless daughters, and you are a
Yes,
fatherless daughter who work with fathers. And so
yes.
the dynamic was cool, and our conversations was cool, and I always enjoyed it. You know, when we had the chance to get together and talk, and definitely I try to catch as many of your lives as I can. You know, when you're on, and just enjoy it. And so, like I said, when I thought about who did I want to be my first guest, I said I got to have Rihanna on. You know, so
Thank you
I'm
so much.
thank you. I want to thank you for even, I know you're busy. I know you have a lot. I think
Mm,
we're in the same time zone now. At one time we
yes.
wasn't.
No, we are. That's why I moved to the tropics so I could be in your time zone. That's all I wanted.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's kind of jump into it because one of the things I want to talk about first is a term that I had never heard until I met you, and you just used it a few minutes ago, and that is alienation. So,
Yes.
what is alienation, and why do you think it happens?
Mm. So, yes, we, or let's say many people, use the term alienation. Usually they say parental alienation because what they mean is that one parent, it doesn't matter actually if it's the father or the mother, is alienated. That means um, kept away from the child purposely. So let's have an example. You have a mom who separates or divorces your dad, and suddenly, you have that dynamic where you're not allowed to see your father anymore. So the way a mother or father can alienate the other parent, so actually they kind of keep the child and the parenting to themselves, and the child turns into a fatherless child, basically, or they make the relationship so difficult that it really has long lasting, long term consequences. And the alienated parent, which is the one who actually wants to have a relationship with his child and suddenly cannot do that anymore for tons of reasons, also suffers. So it's not only the children who suffer, they, of course, are the ones who suffer the most because they're in the middle
Right.
of it all. They cannot make any decisions, they have no choice. But the alienated parent, which we also call the targeted parent, because he's kind of the target of oftentimes a lot of abuse and manipulation and even dishonest, let's say, stuff going on, yeah, also has a big bag to carry all the time.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
why it happens, you also asked, I think, why it happens. Sometimes I'm still not able to answer that question because I
Hmm.
myself was a single mother for years too, and it never occurred to me to actually not encourage the relationship my daughter has with her father. I never would have forbidden him to see his daughter. I never would have invented any lies to destroy his reputation so the judge would maybe favor me or take away his parental rights or custody or whatever. I really believe that a parent who alienates another parent cannot be fully aware of the damage that he or she is causing. And I believe these people have serious issues that, as you know, often come from the family legacy, because it's often people who didn't have parents or fathers themselves who alienate a father.
Right, right. And actually, because that goes into one of the things that I talk about when I address it with fatherless daughters, because some of the fatherless daughters, when I say that, how did this affect you? And they were like, well, I'm okay. And I said, well, I don't think you
Mm,
are. And then the question that I asked is, what generation of fatherless daughter are you? So
yes,
if you are a fatherless daughter, was your mother a fatherless daughter? Was her
yes.
mother a fatherless daughter? Was her mother a fatherless daughter? And then after you answer that question, then my next question is, how many generations will come after you? Will your daughter be a fatherless daughter? And will your granddaughter be a fatherless daughter? Or will you take the steps to stop it, and correct the situation and break the cycle so that this doesn't continue to go on through your family tree of, fatherlessness and fatherless daughters and fatherless sons, and then fatherless sons having children that they're not fathers to, and then they become, uh, fatherless daughters, or they raise fatherless daughters, and then the cycle just continues. And I'm glad that you spoke on that, and you actually brought up one of the other questions that I was going to ask you was, do you think that mothers really realize the part that fathers play, or some of these mothers, do you
Yes.
think they really realize the part that the father plays, and how important do you think that the role of men and fathers specifically are, just in the world together
Mm,
altogether?
yeah, that's a good question, and I always can answer that question being very, very confident, because that's actually what my story looked like. I wasn't the first generation of fatherless daughters in my family. It ran in my family for a few generations. It wasn't seven, but a bit less, but we had it.
Right.
And I was raised by a mother who also had an issue with the father figure. The father never really was there. She was raised by someone else. And she later found out who the gentleman was, and he actually helped pay her studies when she was older. So I think he actually tried to do the right thing, but at that time, nobody really expected him to do much more.
Mm,
So the whole thing was swept under the rug. Nobody talked about these things. It was something shameful. So she had that wound that was never treated or addressed. So she, on the other hand, grew up as a progressive, educated young lady in the late 70s in Germany, which implied that you had to be a feminist to be a progressive, educated lady. So, due to her wound that was never addressed or treated, and to her ideology, she really believed that fathers were not that needed. So, she ended up having two children from two men who didn't really take any responsibility. So they abandoned her. They did never pay any kind of child support, even when they knew she would have needed the financial help,
hmm.
especially in some periods of her life that were very hard. She was sick. But well, that's another a subject for a separate book.
Right.
I'm going to have to write a few. And so I grew up thinking that fathers were not that needed, that all children needed was actually a mother. That's all I knew. And I grew up with a very biased view and even feeling of what a father and a family and a commitment actually looked like or what it meant. So I knew, of course, that most of my friends had dads and moms both in the home. Um, but I never saw a divorced man complain that much about seeing his kids only twice a month. So I thought that was normal because it seemed so common. So I assumed divorced or separated dads do not even miss their children that much because they're
Mm,
not like women. They don't miss their children that much. They don't care that much. And I really had that mindset and felt that way about it until I was in my mid or late 20s. And I came to really what you said is break the cycle. So I came to break the cycle
right.
doing the work. I always call it do the work because it's really work that you need to do to really revise all of your learned behavior and all the information you downloaded as a child when nobody was explaining to you, but you just saw what you saw, and that's what you learned. You learn by the actions of the adults and what they say, often even more the actions. So I had to really come to see what fathers actually play, what role they play, and how important they are once I was a mother repeating the cycle because suddenly, very, very short time after being married, I was divorced and a single mother, and I never wanted that. And I thought, oh my God, am I not knowing any better? Why am I actually doing this? What can I do now? So I decided to do the work and understand what was wrong because otherwise my daughter would maybe have no choice and be as damaged and do the same thing. And that's why, because of all these circumstances or how my life played out, that I know today fathers are not only a bonus that is good if he's there, but not really bad if he's not there. No, fathers are essential to your development. So that's why, and this is what I came to study and to learn later. The statistics have been very clear and the numbers have been there for decades, but it's an ugly subject that doesn't go with the popular narrative today that many people push. And it's that children who have their father involved from early on in the pregnancy, those children have more chances of surviving the pregnancy, of surviving the first months of being born. They're better socially adjusted already as toddlers. They are better problem solvers, more empathetic. They are more confident, and all the ugly sides of fatherlessness we know too. And people tell me, like you say, oh, but you're fine, Jana. You look so, normal and happy and well adjusted. And what's wrong with you? Nothing is wrong with you. And many fatherless daughters who reach out to me also say, I think you're wrong. I'm actually fatherless and I'm totally fine. And I say, well, you don't know any different. You never had a dad.
Right.
How do you know what you missed out on or how your life would be, how you would actually behave in society, communicate with people, with men, how you would be? I mean, you can't know because you missed that 50% of your
Right. Right.
foundation, basically. So this I know today, and I see it with my daughter too. And sometimes it brings me to tears when I see how children have great fathers who love them, who will always be like safe haven for them, who really got their backs and encourage them and show them values and give them validation. Girls need that validation from
Right.
fathers, from their fathers. And I know how it was not to have that. And actually, I was lucky that I didn't end up on the extreme side of the statistic. And I didn't end up as a school dropout, as a teenage mother, um, endangering myself with very dangerous sexual behavior. I didn't end up
Right.
taking drugs but, I suffered from high anxiety. I never felt well adjusted till I was way in my 30s doing the work, discovering that actually not everybody felt the way I did, that actually you could be different and happy.
Right.
So it does a lot to you. It conditions the way you communicate with people, the way you view family, the way you can trust a man or a partner.
Right, right, and just to go back on something that you said, with the fatherless daughters who say that, I think I'm okay, and like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know because you haven't had that experience, And oftentimes,
Yes.
because they either have limited exposure to their father or father figure, they get this image in their head that they draw from things around them. So they
Mm-hmm.
draw images from TV, they draw images from movies, they draw images
Yes.
from songs or from other fathers that they see,
Yeah.
and they put it all together and say, this who a father should be. And oftentimes it's not reality, it's not real.
No,
And
it's something
because
you
they have
make up
this,
in your head. It's
yeah,
something you make up in your head. Um, so then when you go looking for a partner in life, or you're interested in young men, and you look who you like, you mostly will be attracted to the wrong guys, because how do you
right,
know what to pick if you never had the training at home, because your father is supposed to be your first relationship with a man.
right, right, right. Right, yeah, and so they oftentimes don't have that, and so they don't have that experience to draw from, and that's why when I talk to them, I'm like, you what's the reality, and what do you think a father is? Give me a
Mm-hmm.
definition or an example, and sometimes the examples are just unrealistic, and I've told the story about the one young lady who her idea of what a father should be, was, outside playing catch with his sons and throwing the ball back and forth and, playing sports and all of that. And like, yeah, that was, that's cool. But what she ended up getting when she talked to the gentleman that she ended up talking to, who came in with more responsibility and structure, and she couldn't see it because she was like, well, that's not fun. You know what I'm saying? Like the kids don't look like they're having fun, and it's like, well, it's more to being a father and it's
Yeah.
more to manhood than just having fun.
Yes.
It's the responsibilities and the lessons that comes along with, being responsible as a man to be able to take on that responsibility of a father, of a daughter, of a family, and just being in a good relationship with the mom, whether you're together or not, but that comes from being exposed to a father and a father figure,
Mm-hmm.
So if they haven't had that, then they are missing that experience to draw from to know how to react in those situations.
Yes.
So
No.
yeah, so I'm glad that you approached it. I'm glad that you do the work, and not only do you do the work, you actually wrote a book that I bought. So tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, well, I sometimes don't even want to call it a book. I always feel like it's an workbook, so to speak, because it
Mm-hmm.
was meant to be very practical. Because what I encountered when I started coaching fathers on a regular basis, and also getting tons of emails and messages with questions and comments and people sharing their experiences. And I saw that what they often wanted, I mean, men by nature are often fixers. They want to know, how can I fix this? So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I could have, I mean, I even have, it's in the planning. I want to write a book that is going to look like a real book, and it's going to include some of my personal history. And so people also understand why this is important or relevant, not only to me, but to so many other people. But this workbook was like, uh, um, like putting all my coaching experience up to that time together, taking the points that were universal that I saw applied to most fathers, who were the classical cases of a dad who says, I haven't seen my daughter in 6, 7 years, or we have a very strange relationship. We don't have any normal communication anymore. Now that I want to reach out, what do I actually do? Or I tried a few times and it didn't go well. What did I do wrong? Maybe I don't know how to do this at all, or I'm approaching it the wrong way. So that was meant to be a book that they can, like you did, order online, print it out. And also, there is even blank spaces. You saw that. So you can
Right.
start taking your own notes and actively working on it, and break it down a little bit for yourself and see what you could actually do better, or how to start, because it's a journey. Reconnecting with a daughter is a whole journey. It's not done in 2 weeks.
Right,
If it
right.
if it
Yeah,
is, then it's right, you know. If it is, it's good and you deserve it, I'm sure, and it's great, but it usually is a process that can take a longer time. And I didn't really know how fathers would receive it, especially people like you who deal with fatherless daughters and with young men all the time. Um,
right.
so yes, I mean, I'm always happy when someone gives me positive feedback. And I must say, I mean, I like the workbook being there available, because I think it always can help you do something
Right.
different.
Well, I definitely agree. I loved it. I loved it. I still read it
Thank you.
every now and then. It's packed with so much information and so much insight. I wanna ask you two questions, things or two things that I saw in it that I want to ask you about. And one of the first ones was, where is your little girl, and who do you
Mm.
connect with, or who do you reconnect with? So tell me a little bit about that.
Ah, yes, that is actually my favorite part of the whole book, because I hear fathers so often. I hear them talk, or they tell me directly, you know, my little girl is gone. The girl that I had a relationship with, that I bonded with as a child, if they actually are fathers who bonded with their children, some didn't even do that. And they say, my little girl is gone, so I'm grieving. So they have been in a situation of feeling in a grieving process for years. So they're actually mourning that daughter, and they cannot build up any new feelings or take
Mhm.
action in a different direction, because for them it's like she was dead. And that's why I always thought I need to explain this some way, so they understand that if they approach it with a mindset and with an emotion that their daughter is not there anymore, who are they going to reconnect with then? So you first need to
Right.
shift your thoughts and your mindset and your emotional response to the whole thing, so you understand that your daughter is still there. She's actually there where you left her, and she needs you to pick her up right there. So even if she's 20 now, a part of her never actually grew up. The point you left as a dad is a point where she will need you to take action, take responsibility, and to pick her up. So once they understand that their daughter isn't dead, it's not that she's gone, she's there. She just looks like an adult maybe now, or like a teenager, a young lady,
Right.
and a part of her still is there where she lost her father due to whatever circumstances. And I've heard this question a few times from fathers who bought the book, and mostly they were questions with a positive message in it. They always said, look, you know, it was actually a deal breaker for me, because I never thought about this issue. And I actually did it too. I thought she wasn't there anymore. So I kind of gave up.
Right, right. And one of the things that I want to address, even with that, which is I know as a mistake that some fathers make when
Yeah.
they do reconnect with their daughter years later or after a significant amount of time, is they try to pick up where they left off at. You know,
Mm,
so it's like, okay, if your daughter was 2 when you left and now she's 20, you can't treat her like she's 2. You know, you
yeah.
can't, you have to come meet her where she is now as an adult. She's 20 now. She's still your
Yeah.
daughter, but now she's an adult daughter, you know, so you
Hmm.
have to, reconnect with her on the level that she is now. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on in your book is responsibility and what dad are you going to be? So
Hmm.
talk to us a little bit about that, because I thought that was very interesting, and a father really thinking about how he comes off, not only to his daughter, but how he comes off to other people in front of his daughter. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. I have to say, I had to think about it twice before I wrote that chapter, that part, because I always like to make it a bit enjoyable, or to write it in a way that is very casual, that it's like I'm speaking to you. I'm also not a native in the English language, so I write a
Hmm.
little bit, just my way. Of course, I had a professional correct it later because I didn't want it to look unprofessional or too crazy. Like, oh, this is this European chick who can't speak English and now she's writing books, not good. But I tried to make it even a bit fun or funny when I think there is a part where I even wrote that, what kind of man are you? How do people see you? What do you look like when you leave your house? I mean, if all you own is sweatpants and sweaters, maybe you should even buy new clothes, before you
Hmm.
meet your daughter. How do you want to come across? How do you,
Right.
what impact do other people, what kind of an impact do you make, let's say, or what kind of an impression do you give people? And I wanted to address it because people always think that the looks do not matter or the way you present yourself in the world doesn't matter. But I've been in, let's say, in seminars with a lot of people back in Europe where people were on stage, gentlemen were on stage, and then people started telling them what they looked like or how they assumed their personality was, looking at their
Hmm.
posture and how they carried themselves. And people were totally shocked. They said, oh, I had no idea I came across this way. Maybe I'm even scary to some people, or I look like somebody who really hasn't got his life together, or I look very insecure with my posture, or I look like I don't care about anything. So I didn't even want to talk only about the looks. When I say, what kind of father do you want to be? A man who will try to reconnect with his daughter after years. In those years, you lived your life some way. I don't know what you did professionally. Where do you live? If you remarried, if you're on your own, if you traveled a lot, I have no idea. If you took care of yourself, if you didn't. But your daughter doesn't know you now, if that's the case, that she barely knows you, or maybe she never saw you before. What kind of a father are you going to be? And that often brings the fathers to reorganize their priorities, to look at their life and say, well, really, I should maybe take care of
Hmm.
myself and start being more accountable. Because what am I going to do if I'm somebody who never has been consistent with anything? Now, if I do this, I
Right.
need to show my daughter consistency. So if you show your daughter consistency, you will need to learn to be more consistent in every aspect of your life. So I've seen fathers transform for the better in many aspects of their daily lives once they hear the question, what kind of a man do you want to be from now on? What father do you want your daughter to have from now on? How are you going to do this? And I don't only mean what are you going to say or what are you going to wear, but do you really like yourself when you see yourself in the mirror? Things are much easier with your daughter or with anyone if you actually, you know, say, okay, that's me and I don't regret anything and I'm just trying to do things a better way now. So that's actually what
Right.
I meant, that you can put everything on the table, lay all your cards on the table and say, okay, how do I want to play this game? Years have
Right.
passed. Am I really where I want it to be? And how is this going to influence the future with my daughter?
Right, right, and how you're going to come across and how you're going to be presented, or how you're going to present yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I know we've talked about it before, which is one of the mistakes that fathers make when reconnecting with their daughters, is trying to tell their story. Trying to tell,
Yes.
this is what happened, and this is my side, and this is my point of view. And so I know we've talked about it before. So just give
Yeah.
me a little advice to a father that is reconnecting with his daughter for the first time and having that very first conversation after years
Mm.
of being absent. Like, what are some pointers that you can give us to say, okay, recognize this is what you want to do. This is
Mm-hmm.
how you want to start that conversation.
Yeah. It's a very important part of the process, and it's essential that really fathers learn that if they do what you just said, like try to go there and say, look, now that I'm here, you can hear my side of the story. So they actually believe oftentimes that their daughters, like, oh, she's lucky because now she's going to hear my version of the facts. But they entirely miss the point, and it's
Hmm.
usually going to backfire if you do that. So as a father, if you, for all the fathers out there who are maybe listening, or if you have a husband who's going to do this process with a daughter, maybe from a previous marriage, whatever, never go there thinking that your version of the facts is going to be relevant in the reconnection process. It is not. It's something that needs to be addressed later if your daughter asks you for certain information, if she really wants to know. But for that, you first need to build trust. And to build trust, you will need to keep it neutral at first. Of course, show that you're happy to be there, be as honest and transparent as you can. But if she doesn't really know you, or too many years have passed, you don't know what experiences she's had, how she really grew up, what she has learned about you. You don't know what information she has about what a father actually means or what your
Hmm.
relationship could turn into. So you don't know her reality. So it's very risky to just go there and say, now you can hear my side of the story. That means that you have a selfish expectation. You want to feel better with yourself, telling her your side of the story. It's not what
Right.
she needs. It's what you need. So what you need to focus on first is to really meet her needs. And maybe in the beginning, she just needs you to be there and to have a meal with her, or she just wants to take a walk somewhere in a neutral public space, and she just wants to get to be by your side and see if she actually feels comfortable walking around with you in public. Maybe she will not ask any questions, but you are the one who
Right.
needs to wait for her actually making certain moves. And if you want to say something, then say that you know the adults were responsible, that she's, of course, not to blame for anything, that the adults should have known better, that you adults
Right.
didn't find a perfect solution, but you hope someday she can maybe forgive you or, get to know you so you can kick things off in a different, fresh way. But you're not
Right.
there to tell her your side of the story. That's not what she needs. And you're not going to benefit from doing that at all. She might not even be interested in hearing that. Maybe she has questions that go entirely in a different direction. So your duty is actually to stay no matter what she says, no matter how angry she is, if she is, and take it.
Right. Right. I remember reading a book, and it was written by a fatherless daughter, and she talked about an experience that she had with her father, as an adult. And one of the conversations that they had, and she asked him, "Why weren't you there?" And
Mm-hmm.
so he went to go into his whole explanation of why he wasn't there and things that happened or whatever. And she stopped him and she said, "I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear all of that. All I want to hear is, I'm sorry, you know."
Yes.
And she said he paused for a second, and then he looked her in her eyes and heartfully said, "I'm sorry. I'm just sorry for
Yes.
not being there." And they
Yes.
had a moment that they both just embraced each other and cried. A father and a daughter just had that moment. And I think that's a breakthrough moment for all fathers that are reconnecting with their daughters. There will come a time when
Mm-hmm.
they'll be ready to hear your excuse or your explanation, because it may be a valid point, but
That's it.
there's going to come a time when they
Mm-hmm.
ask for that. But
Yeah.
when you first reconnecting, that's not the time to try to give it. At that
Yeah.
point, the biggest point you can make, and I always say, prove your love by your actions, not your
Mm-hmm.
accusations. Prove your
Mm-hmm.
love by what you're doing right then, and that will outweigh anything they may have heard about you, in the past.
That's
So
it.
yeah, that's a definitely a point that I'd like to get across. So Jana, I'm just going to give 4 points
Yes.
for fathers that's reconnecting, with their daughters, and then I'm going to let you have the last word. So when
Great.
fathers that are listening, when you're reconnecting with your daughter or with your child, period, for the first time after it's been some years of you being away, there's four things that you should think about, right? So the first one is remember that it's about the child. Make sure that when you're going in to reconnect with your child, that's what your focus is on. Your focus is on reconnecting with your child, not proving somebody else wrong, not doing any of that, but reconnecting with your child and letting them know that you are there for them. The
Mm-hmm.
number two is it's your job to protect your child. And so in protecting your child, that means sometimes you may just have to take the blame, right? You might just have to take the blame because it'll do more damage to your child by having or proving that the person who they have grown to trust their whole life has been lying to them. So
Mm-hmm.
now they're in a position of they don't know who to trust. So in protecting your child, sometimes you will have to take that burden. Sometimes you will have to take that lick. So sometimes you have to take that punch in the way of you taking it in order to protect your child. Number three, which I talked about a minute ago, is prove your love by your actions and not your accusations, right? Prove your love by being active or being present in the moment because you've already been away. You've already missed time. So don't come back and try to reconnect and prove, that you're not this person that they may have not have heard, verbally, but do it with your actions, not your words, but your actions. And the last one is how you make her feel now will outweigh everything that she's heard about you in the past. Because she may have heard that you are not a good guy. She may have heard that, you are this type of person or a bad father or a bad husband or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. But when you are there, you weren't there then to offend yourself or to defend yourself. But now that you're here, the actions that you take and how you make her feel by showing her the love now that you are present, when you do it right, and you show her the love that she deserves as a daughter from her father, then it will outweigh and she will be able to forgive you for everything that she's heard about you because of the love that she's receiving from you now. So those are my 4 points to any father that's reconnecting with their daughters specifically, but also sons or their child, period. So Jana, again, first of all, I want to say thank you so very much for being here. Thanks for being my first
Welcome.
guest on the podcast. I'm going to give you the last words, and after you have to say your last words, then also give your information where you can be reached at. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I really loved doing this. Um, yeah, what I can say is that the 4 points are very valuable. Every father should take notes, even every mother who maybe has a partner who needs to know this. And what I want to always bring across is that it is possible to reconnect with a daughter, even if you didn't raise her at all, even if you say, but I never bonded with her as a child. It is possible. It really depends on if you want it or not. And it is always helpful to talk to somebody who knows what you're dealing with and who wants you to actually take action. And it's not easy if you really don't have any guidance, if you don't have anyone to talk to. And sometimes even family and friends are not the best because sometimes they don't even know what that experience is like, or they always want to help you, but maybe they can't tell you where you're wrong or what you should do instead. So that's why people like us are here to help you guys. And sometimes all it takes is one conversation or reading an ebook like mine. Sometimes all it takes is seeing some content where you can learn something new. So please look for, not only for me, of course, for um, Earnest too on Instagram or on other platforms. I'm on Instagram every day posting content. I love going live so you guys can learn more. And if you want a conversation to see if I can help you or to have some information, just go to my website. It's janaherde.com. You can also go to Instagram, and on the link that is on my profile, you have all the options. You can book a consultation, you can order your ebook, you can join my newsletter if you want to have me twice a week, once a week, sometimes in your inbox with different kinds of information, experiences other fathers have that I can share, experiences I hear from children or former alienated children, even, or fatherless daughters like me. It's free. You can leave whenever you want. I really don't want to have anyone having anything to do with me if they don't want to. So reach out. Let's see if I can help you. And if I can't help you, or I know someone else who's better at what you need, I'm going to tell you so. So we're really here to help. This is what I do, at least for a living even. So I'm very passionate about what I do. This is not a hobby that I do like on the side because I'm bored or anything. I really care about fathers having the guidance and the support that they need. So you don't need to lose it all, to lose your sanity, to ruin your relationships because you're navigating the alienation process and you don't have any proper support. Reach out and get help, and get anyone who needs help to listen to this podcast. This can change a person's life and options to listen to something like this today.
Right, right. So again, thank you so much, Jana, for being on. Your Jana's Instagram name or link is will be in the description. It's also right here on the screen, so you can look her up. Again, Jana, I want to thank you so very much for being here. Thank you so very much for being my very first guest here on the podcast. And again, I want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And I'm just so happy that you're here. Thank you for taking the journey with me.
Of
Again, my
course.
mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. So until
Yes.
next time, we'll see you later.
See you later.